Good evening, everyone. Here is Abdullahi Raimuk speaking, and today's discussion is about the Panthera leospilaya, again, the cave lion. And this time we'll be focusing a little bit more on the identity of this animal, based on paleontology, based on biology, and based on the evolutionary history that has been studied by the scientists and the experts of paleontology and wildlife. Also, we will be also looking at some of the history from different aspects of other sciences to try to piece together what is the cave lion and how it was living and what most likely this animal looked like. And I will be also making some of my own emphasis here to basically put out some and set out some theories based on other theories that I've been actually going through some of the studies about the cave lions of Europe and Eurasia, and probably the Americas as well. Why I said the Americas? Because in the North America, the North American lion is also a clade shared an evolutionary clade, which is an evolutionary path with the Eurasian cave lion. So it's the same animal, and also it colonized the northern tip of the Southern Americas. So basically, today, if we look closely at the identity of the cave lion, we don't find much out there, especially if you go online, especially if you go looking for documents. Thankfully, the discovery of the two cubs in the permafrost in the Russian steppe or the Russian tundra these days, what has been discovered in 2016 is two sets of cubs, and they were perfectly preserved in the permafrost, which is high level ice, very powerful, very condensed ice that really kept them very well preserved. And this gave us the hope that we might be able to basically clone the cave lion back to life. And when I say cloning, it's still in its own advancing path and evolutionary path as a process with the scientists and cloning experts, notably those Russian scientists and the South Korean scientists as well. So in Siberia, these two sets of cubs that were found were proven to be cave lion cubs, and if you look at them close, they are really preserved in a way that you can still recognize the faces of modern. It's really similar to modern cubs. I wouldn't be mistaken, but if you look closely, there is something really distinct about this animal. Now, just moving on, because we've made a couple videos back on some vlogs about these impressive animals, and of course we'll be doing a lot of extensive series about these prehistoric incredible animals. But just to focus now, we'll start discussing the identity of the cave lion. So the cave lion is really a distinct animal in its own way, because now if we speak in terms of academia and in the terms of scientific academia, we have to be very precise about our terminologies. So I think that today we need to focus more on the terminologies and to be very precise more than ever. Why? Because if you look today, there is a confusion in the debate about the cave lion itself, because the only remains that we have these days are skeletons and few remains from the tissue of the animal, of course from different varying tissues. And these have led to basically a new type of studies that took the mitochondrial DNA, and they basically did study the mitochondrial DNA, and they found out that this animal has shared its evolutionary clade and path with a lion, the line of evolution with the Panthera leo, the modern lion, whether be it the modern African lion Panthera leo or the Asiatic lion Panthera leo persica. Now, looking at this animal closely, it's still really debatable that this animal is not exactly a lion, like modern day lions, but it's a different species within the genus of Panthera, and within the Panthera leo, and that is also debatable. So that's why you really can't piece together this animal, and it still has some sort of mystery, and that's why I came to investigate it and to try to piece out together the identity of this animal. There are a couple of reasons that I have to basically try to argue with my own position, because I have my own position as an animal enthusiast and a wildlife enthusiast. But to be honest, I'm still myself. I'm still kind of not really convinced with the the position I am coming from to argue about the lion 100%. I might be convinced only 65% or 50% of what I'm thinking myself, and it's also based on evidences and on studies of various disciplines from various experts of wildlife and paleontology and biology, whether it be tiger experts or lion experts. And I'm really in a position to say that this animal is really not reconstructed precisely the way it should, and I don't think we will ever be able to look closely at the physical frame of this animal in a way that we can say, oh yes, this is the exact animal that it was like 11,000 years ago before it went extinct. If you look at extant day lions, modern lions in India or in Africa, most of these animals are somehow, similar to the Eurasian cave lions somehow, and in general cave lions. Well, the scientists came in various positions, and now we will focus on the main two positions. The first scientists argue that the cave lion would have looked like a normal day lion, and based on the cave paintings that were left by the old cave people, the old cultures 11,000 years ago to 14,000 years ago and beyond, these paintings, for example the Chauvet cave in France, they really, in southern France, really gives you an impression of what this animal would have looked like. But if you look closely, there are certain things that we don't really put into perspective, and that's what I wanted to put light and shed light on tonight. Because if you look closely to the cave lion, it's kind of similar and still different, and these are the two positions from which the scientists of lions are arguing with. The first have argued that they would have looked, like we said, like modern day lions, Panthera leo, but in a certain way a little bit different. And we all, I think most of us are very familiar with the savanna lions of Africa, which are found in the steppes of the savanna in grasslands of East Africa or Southern Africa or West Africa and so on, in various parts of Africa. These lions are called steppe lions, STEPPE lions, and steppe is a word that means vast fields. That means vast fields, vast open fields. Now, if we just take a look at what Europe and Eurasia looked like 13,000 years ago to 14,000 years ago, roughly the time of the extinction of the cave lion of Eurasia, and in 11,000 years ago, by 11,000 years ago in the Northern Americas, where the cave lion, the American lion, Panthera leo atrox, went extinct. If you look at that time, the temperature and the weather was totally different. The climatic conditions of the world were totally different. And I was studying one of the studies that were recently published in 2015 or 2016, respectively. And in that study, it said that the climatic conditions are not only one reason for these animals to go extinct, but it's rather also a couple of various reasons. And I am really scared. I'm really scared that modern day lions, extant lions, are going to face the same fate as with their cave lions 11,000 years ago, because of what is happening today. If you looking today at lions in Africa or India, they're suffering from a lot of really bad conditions that might contribute in some way or another to the more severe decline of their population. And we all know that the severe decline of the population of the lion these days have been dramatic. In fact, so dramatic that almost 200,000 lions went down to roughly couple, tens of thousands of lions these days, probably 20,000 lions if I'm not mistaken, if I'm not mistaken, in Africa. And that alone is due to different factors, with which the cave lion shared some similarities as well. Now, it is said that the climatic conditions went very, very severe on a low level because of the global warming, and because of the Holocene. Because if you look back, it was the Pleistocene era, and by that time it was an ice age. Now, when that ice age ended, we have the Holocene, which is modern day, just like today somehow. So with that, the global climatic conditions became warmer, and that really did affect severely a lot of the megafauna that was found in all around the world, in various places and sites and positions and areas and regions of various countries and continents. And if you look today, for example, at the ice sheets that used to preserve the water in the northern and southern poles of the earth, you can really come into a conclusion that there is, according also to this study, there is a 70 meters change of the sea levels. And just to put it plainly simple, if you look today at the sea, it was so much less in height. So the sea level was moderately lower than today. 70 meters, and that is due to the the water being molted in the ice sheets, and so this led to a very sharp increase of the water levels around the planet, which led to the Berenian land bridge being basically blocked, if I'm not mistaken. So if you look today, then again, it's not only climatic conditions that are the problem, according to this study, and it is a very well known, respective, and very precise study of the mitochondrial DNA of the cave lion in Eurasia and Alaska and Siberia, and that study showed that these animals, along with other big megafauna, other big animals like the mammoth and the woolly rhinoceros and other form of animals, just went extinct because not only the climatic conditions, but because of the theory of the human hunting over the various types of animals in the Pleistocene that were found. And if we look at the mammoth, for example, it suffered huge losses of its population due to human hunting. Not only that, but if we also look at many animals, that, especially like if you look at the ground sloth, which is a very big animal, weighing a couple of tons, it never came to contact with people, and people came to colonize and to migrate to Northern America in almost 14,000 years ago, approximately, if I'm not mistaken, around the range of 14 to 13,000 years ago. The Clovis people, who are original Americans, Indian Americans, I think, Clovis people and their culture, which is named after the Clovis points and spears, and the Clovis points are very sharp, revolutionary weapons that are developed by the old humans of the Pleistocene era to hunt big animals. And these animals really did suffer in facing these very powerful, very precise weapons. The Clovis point is really very, very, very sharp-edged, and it's made of very special type of rocks, and it's designed to double the penetration of the spear into the animal. So it had the ability to basically hunt ground sloth, mammoth, defend against big animals like the saber-toothed cats, Smilodon populators, Smilodon fetalis, and so on. And also against North American lions, the Panthera leo atrox, which is so big. It's so big. It's much bigger than today's lions by, I think, 20%. So these, and even the short-faced bear, which was the biggest carnivore of the North American hemisphere, didn't survive against the humans. So this is known as the second level predation, I think. And it's the overkill theory is really interesting in that if you look closely, to put it simple, it is said that when the humans came with their Clovis weaponry and with their new form of weaponry and started to hunt, they thought that they had a new unending vast array of souls to live upon these animals. You can just imagine it, millions of animals living in the open plains of Northern America, steep bison, North American lions preying on them, Smilodon, which is the saber-toothed cats, short-faced bears, horses, mammoths, rhinoceros. If I'm not mistaken, we're around Eurasia, nearly around the adjacent areas of the North America, ground sloth, a lot of other various animals that we will go through in next videos of the series. So it's said that when the humans came, they started to decrease the number of predators in the area, including American lions, including Smilodon, including short-faced bears, Arctudocimos, and so this led to vast, overpopulation of the grazing animals and the herbivores. So we had predators who are carnivores or omnivores that relied for their survival on the herbivores, and they consumed their meat. And when humans came, they basically hunted the carnivores and the herbivores, but they also killed a lot of carnivores. And the carnivorous animals did not really achieve a successful, repopulation, if I may say here. They didn't, populate, and so we had a misbalance. The balance of nature was disturbed by humanity, and that led to the huge, herds of bison, of horses, tapirs, of muskox, and other types of animals being, unchecked, and they grow to very huge herds that are unchecked, because the role of a carnivore is to regulate the population of the herbivores by means of a predation, and that is set by nature to keep a balance between the the plants, the flora, and the fauna, which is the animal. So flora, the plants, and the animals, fauna, did accomplish a certain degree of balance that would stop overgrazing, and in a way all this would accumulate, resulting in a very, 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 very important and very, very well balanced niche, ecological niche, in which the balance of different herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, and flora would contribute to the survivability of the ecological niche of the environment. and that would basically stop flora plants from going extinct, and so will preserve the area intact, and will keep the population of the carnivores and especially the herbivores in check, and so they will not overpopulate and overgraze the land and cause desertification or cause distinct things like mass extinctions that were very, very distinct on the last period. So that's it's known as the first level predation for the carnivores and the second level predation by humans of these carnivores. So if we look at the Northern American lions, the Panthera leo atrox, and the Eurasian cave lion, Panthera leo spelaea, the thing is, we don't really know up to today 100% why they went extinct. Even the studies that have been observed in the laboratories, and these are very sophisticated laboratories that really did accomplish a lot in terms of going through these DNA, mitochondrial DNA, and the studies of the DNA confirmed that there is another reason that is not only human, population increase, the human invasion of the lands, and predation of the animals, and it's not only the climatic and the overpopulation of the animals that caused the extinctions and the extinction of the flora followed by the extinction of the megafauna. But it's also some sort of, and this is the point where I am today arguing with, and I'm really scared as a wildlife enthusiast, that lions and tigers and other big cats like leopards and other leopards and other animals of various types, even the herbivores, today might go extinct because of this. You have what is called inbreeding, and inbreeding happens when the animals basically face some sort of breeding, which means breeding within their populations. Now, if you look, and this is a point that I will connect to another point ahead of us here in this, speech and in this commentary about the cave lion, trying to identify its identity and the reasons that of its extinction. Unfortunately, that point is, the studies have concluded that within the DNA of the cave lion and the DNA of this cave lion the DNA samples of this cave lion were extracted from various sites, from Alaska, from southern Europe, from northwestern Europe, from southwestern and southeastern Europe, and from Eurasia, from northern Asia, from Siberia, from Alaska, even from the United States of America, where the cave lion of the Americas, the North American lion, used to exist as well. And of course, all the previous samples were from the Eurasian cave lion. And this study was, focusing on the Eurasian cave lion. Of course, when we speak of the Eurasian cave lion went to colonize the Northern American lands after it migrated through the Bering land bridge. The Bering land bridge is Bering, which went under the sea level these days. So by that time, it was some sort of glaciers that littered the land, literally, all around the Bering land bridge, constructing a land bridge from Alaska and Yukon to Siberia, and that led to animals being able to cross this land, the same that also led northern Indian Native Americans to colonize, and the Clovis people to colonize the Northern America and to be able to migrate, was also that land bridge. So the Eurasian cave lion migrated there, and it became in the form of the Northern American lion, and this is again proven through the DNA. The traces of the DNA proves that the Northern American lion was somehow, traced back to the Eurasian cave lion through evolution. And the Eurasian cave lion itself, I think through maybe 500,000 years ago, or 1.3 million years ago, migrated from Africa. So the origin of all cave lions is modern day origin of the African and Indian lion. If you look at the Indian lion itself, 100,000 years ago, I think, it went from colonizing the East Africa, I think, and northeastern Africa, to cross through the Middle East to colonize India and Eurasia. And also there is another very interesting fact, that the Eurasian cave lions, shortly after they went extinct in Eurasia, were replaced by the Persica, the Panthera leopersica, which is the Asiatic lion, or the Asian lion, which is still today found in the Gujarat state of India, as the Indian lion, which once was in Persia, in Turkey, in Bulgaria, in Georgia, in Eastern Europe, and in Eurasia, and in even some parts of Greece, and so on. And in fact, it colonized the Eastern Europe and Southeastern Europe, Eurasia, Western Asia, the Middle East, Arabia, Southern Arabia as well, and a lot of other places. It was all colonized by the Asiatic lion. And it's really still unknown that, the lions that were found in Europe, whether they were the traces, the descendants of cave lions or Asiatic lions, is still debatable. So that is a very interesting fact I still find. So just to trace back these origins of these animals, let us get back into the topic itself. If you look at the Panthera leofossilis, which is the fossil that was found in Europe, and it was the mother of the modern cave lion of Eurasia, and it's not modern, prehistoric, of course, but I'm just saying modern because it's 11,000 years ago they went extinct in North America. So that Panthera leofossilis migrated from Africa to Eurasia, and it gave the evolutionary line to the lions of Eurasia and North America. Now, just to put it very clearly to some people here who are really confused about the this story of lion evolution, the lion as an animal was basically had its evolution in Africa, as we all know. So all lions, and this is very important, the lion was found all across lands, and it was the second most numerous animal found all around the world after the humanity, and after humans colonized all the land. Today, if you look today at modern the modern world, the human Homo sapiens really are found everywhere. But the lion did colonize as well. If you look 10,000 years ago, the lion was colonizing all the land. You had the American lion in Northern America. You had the Eurasian cave lion all across Asia, Europe, Eurasia, and some type of, if I'm not mistaken, parts of East and even Western Asia. So also you had the African lion colonizing the whole entire African continent, and the Asiatic lion colonizing all the, the southeastern Asia, and even Europe and Southern Europe, and the Middle East and Arabia, all across time, different periods. But the lion did colonize a lot of lands. It had a wide distribution. The range of the distribution of lion population was really comparable to humans at some points of its its history. So the thing is, now let's just put it as simple as it can be, that the lion of Eurasia and North America, the cave lion, was similar to today's lion or not is still debatable. And just try to piece together with you what it must have been, from my position, I think that if we look at most of the cave art the cave arts that most people would basically tell us in retrospect, especially if we go into a debate, we think, they say, that the cave lion generally had no mane, and it had only a scrotum, which is a very, very, very less developed mane, underdeveloped mane, if I may say here. It's just a scrotum, and the animal was really huge. So they say, if you look at the cave paintings, like in the Chauvet of France or other places, you can see that people in prolific arts of the Ice Age depicted lions hunting in prides, and this lion had no manes. And that would in itself give us reason enough to believe that the lion is of the cave lion species had no mane, and it was some way different than modern day lions. Well. The thing is, I would argue in this position to say that most scientists in the started to piece the cave lions as Panthera leo. That was before we say Panthera spelaea or Panthera atrox, and we take that leo out. The scientific Latin name Panthera leo means the lion from the genus Panthera, which is the panther lion. So it's like to say that these animals were kind of, really similar to today's lions somehow. So these people said that to be able to trace this animal, we looked at the various different arts, and these arts all together tell us that these animals had no manes. I simply would say that the cave lion would have been in groups just like today's animals. The lions would congregate in their own communities. If you look at today's prides, the prides of lions these days, they have prides as a social structure which consists of two things. If you look in Asia, for example, in Southeast Asia, in the Indian subcontinent, the lion there the lions there have a very distinct and very, very different social structure from their African cousins. In some way, the pride of lions in India has a very distinct structure that males do not live within the population of the females. So prides there are mostly feminist type of prides that are led by lionesses, their aunts, their daughters, their their cubs and so on. But the males would basically be in bachelor groups, rogue males moving around and just attending briefly to protect the cubs, or basically to help in the hunt and mate with the lionesses and so on. So it's basically a materialistic type of pride. They join for physical and needs and hunting needs, and it's basically matriarchal type of pride. While as if we look at the African lion, it's a bit different. The males would stay within the group. And of course, it is very, 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 intimate. The male lions would, even in the Indian lion, Panthera leo persica, the Persian lion, would basically be all, intimate with the females and so on, and actually part of the pride. Unlike that, the African lion has the males congregating within the population of the pride itself. So it's type of patriarchal type of pride, where the male lions are basically dominating and attending all the time and being found all the time. I would argue that because the Asiatic lion is the best example today to compare with the extinct Eurasian cave lion or the North American cave lion. North American lion. I think that if we look at the underdeveloped mane in the Asiatic lion, it's really similar to the cave lion, because some of these animals were congregating around caves in Persia in the 1930s, 1940s, and before that, and less pride, like I mentioned in my previous videos, were hunted in around the cave den. So to say that the Asiatic lion is a cave lion is somehow kind of true. But if we look closer at this animal, if we look at its way of socializing, and if we compare that based on the basis that it's the closest to its cave lion's behavior, I think based on the prolific arts from caves by prehistoric Ice Age people and cave people, we can realize one thing that most people do not shed light upon, and that is males do not often attend the pride, and the pride would go and hunt all alone. If you look at the African lions, they hunt mostly antelopes, but the Indian Asiatic lions would basically hunt mostly deers. So the lionesses would hunt in forested areas, and they live in mostly dense scrubs and dense foliage type of thorny forests in Asia, especially in India, in the state of Gujarat. If you look at these animals, I would argue that the cave lions were once found in a same ecological niche, somehow similar in their social, boundings and in their social structure to the modern day Asiatic lions. So these cave people did basically draw, and the figurines in the cave are representations by art of lionesses and not lions. So if we really come into realization that it's still unknown whether the Eurasian cave lion or the American lion had mane or not, and whether they were in type of patriarchal or matriarchal prides, it's still debatable. It's not still clear. And I'm coming here as a person who is not only a lion enthusiast, but a person who is generally an animal and wildlife enthusiast. And the position from which I come is a very, very, very balanced position, especially when I argue within the academia of, animal world. If you look at people who come from different expertise, from different fields and expertise, some are arguing that certain things are certain things because they are fan of a certain thing. So if you speak to a lion expert, he will basically try to say that the cave lion was similar to the lion in somehow and so on. If you speak to a tiger expert and a tiger fan, he would basically try to argue that it was not exactly a lion, it was sort of Panthera genus, but it's similar to a lion, but it's kind of different, and it has a difference. So I think that from based on this position that I find mostly common in the debate today within the cave lion and its identity, upon that I would like to start this series known as Lion Population, and mostly the title of my series will be Cave Lion, the Identity and the Debate. Yes, so basically we will be going through two things. I will be doing 3 other videos after this video to try to piece together the real identity of the cave lion, and the first video would be Cave Lion, the Identity, the second would be Cave Lion, the Truth, and the third, Cave Lion, the Debate. So with that being said, I really hope that you have benefited from this video. I'm really looking forward to see you with other videos that will mostly cover the cave lion, and we will try to look at what the cave lion is more precisely, try to piece together what it must have looked like as an animal. And with that being said, I hope you guys have had great informative commentary. This is Abdullahi speaking. And with that being said, peace, and see you on the next video. Peace and out.